Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. We've been talking about mental and social emotional changes that happens in children as they begin to grow, and we spoke about just the mental changes, we spoke about just the social emotional changes, and now we are going to look at the developmental stages, because each of these changes happen differently as a child grows in each developmental stage. And now if you would, if you work with children, or if you have a child of your own and you have paid attention, you will notice that each of these stages comes with a different challenge. It comes with a different beautiful moment and has its own ups and downs. And so we are going to be looking at these stages one at a time. So today we are starting with the most fascinating stage of all. Yes, your guess is right, early childhood. And that's from about age 1 to 5 years. And if you have spent time with children within this age group, or if you have a child that has gone through that age range, from 1 to 5, there are certain things that you will notice, and it doesn't matter where the child lives, who gave birth to that child, these things stand out. And one is curiosity. They are very curious. They want to know what is there. They want to see. They are very curious. These are the children that would see a dog or a cat and they would want to touch it and understand why it has the fur and all of that. And they ask non-stop questions. And so you'd always ask, Mommy, what is that? Mommy, why is this? Mommy, when are we going here? They always ask questions. And that is a stage when they want to be independent. And so you notice the child wanting to, dress by themselves, eat by themselves, hold their own bags. And another thing is that they have emotional instability, if I can put it that way. And so these are the 4 things that if you have been with a child between age 1 and 5, you will notice. We are going to take our time to talk about the things I have spoken about. What do you actually notice in this stage when it comes to the mental and the social emotional development? Okay, so now let's talk about curiosity and endless questions. Okay, so we are merging the two. Now, you should be happy when you have a child within the age range of 1 and 5 being very curious or asking a lot of questions, because that is when they start to learn. Okay, when they are being curious is when it motivates them to learn about new things. They discover new things. And I know sometimes, it can be a bit overwhelming knowing that my little baby now asking so many questions, now always curious about something, wanting to look up. That is actually very good. And so if you have a child within age 1 and 5 being curious or asking a lot of questions, you should be excited. The next is big emotions. And so this is the stage where you realize you ask your child to wait for their turn, and then they get frustrated. They don't understand why you're asking them to wait. Or you take a toy from them and then they start to, behave in a way that you're like, what is all this? They throw themselves on the floor and they're screaming and crying. That is good, because at this stage they are now learning how to manage their emotions. Everything is just coming fast, okay? Because at this stage the brain is now developing. They are moving from being a baby and being all dependent on you, and then now trying to understand certain things. And so we will talk about how to manage these things, but then I just want you to understand what these things are and why they are showing up. So when it comes to the big emotions, they are learning how to regulate their emotions. And so as a parent, how do we support a child at this stage? Now when it comes to the emotions, the big emotions, your part to play is that you teach them how to understand, how to behave. And so if the child is throwing a tantrum and all of that, instead of screaming at the child, ask the child, oh, are you sad because I took your toy? No, if you stop crying, I'll give it to you. Then you explain to the child. Maybe somebody pisses them off. You teach them, oh, are you angry because this person did this? Okay, this is anger. Another thing you can do is to encourage their independence with guidance. Now, encourage them to do things by themselves. This would develop problem-solving skills in them. Don't always try to be doing things for them. The child wants to wear their shoe, then quickly come and wear it for them. Allow them to try and make mistakes. Guide them. This would help them. Now you should also learn to respond to them with patience. And so you notice the child is throwing a tantrum. Instead of screaming and shouting at the child, be the calm one and teach them how to manage that emotion. These are some of the things you can do to help a child at the early year stage, okay, between age 1 and 5. So another thing you can do to also support your child in this stage is to provide the child with a routine and a structure. And so let them know that, okay, today is Monday, on Mondays we do this, Tuesday we do this. Let them understand the days, because at that stage they really don't know when is Monday, when is Tuesday. So you teach them, you give them a structure, a routine. Okay, this is the time you go to bed, this is the time you eat. When you do all these things, it helps them to balance them. Now remember, early childhood is a stage of curiosity, exploration, and emotional growth. And so what may come to you as reaction or stubbornness is actually the child learning how the world around them works. It is your duty to help and to guide the child. And so in our next episode, we are going to talk about another developmental stage. If you don't want to miss out on this, please subscribe if you have not, and do well to share this video with friends and loved ones so that another person can benefit from what you are learning. Thank you so much for joining up to this point. See you in the next episode. Mwah! Bye.